What is up, everyone? It is Lovenji Gaming here, and whilst I continuously roller coaster up and down in terms of the state of my own health, I'm still here working to try and bring videos to you. So I do apologise if this one sounds a little off, but I wanted to do my best to keep producing for you whilst I still had the energy to. So, you may be thinking that we've actually done all the covert operations missions for GDI. We must be going on to Nod now. Not quite correct. This version of Command & Conquer actually contains all the PSX and Nintendo missions as well. So we're actually going to be going into GDI N64 Mission 1. So without further ado, let's get this underway. What is up, everyone? We're in GDI N64 Mission 1. And the very first thing I did was fix the game speed, as you can imagine, and restart the level, because those precious seconds, you've seen how quick Fastest actually is. That was probably like a full minute of game time. Now, they really like commando levels. The commando, of course, being voiced by our one and only Frank Kabaki. And the only thing you have to watch out for is that flame trooper hiding behind the tree. He can get you good and proper. The answer here is to not airstrike the power plants, but to airstrike the obelisk. Nod is sitting on top of a huge power base, and actually airstriking both those power plants will not yield you the result that you want and enable you to take out the obelisk. So you actually have to do it this way. Take out the obelisk, and then those power plants are yours to capture at your leisure. Now, one of the advantages of the commando is he has a great vision range, so we can use him to explore some of this shroud and see what's up in different places. Doing the build properly now, we're going to open up with one refinery and move into one weapons factory. I'm putting the commando on this side because continuous Nod flame troopers are going to be marching from the southern side, whilst tanks are going to come from the north. It does take a little bit of time to produce your first weapons factory. That's just nature of the build time, I'm afraid. But we're going to put one down and immediately get a harvester going. Then we're going to move on to our barracks, which of course is going to give us the engineers we need to capture these extra power plants. And build a power plant for ourselves as well. What we're going to be doing is actually very heavily fortifying that bridge, so the more power that we get access to, the better. Now with the second harvester done, we immediately put it to work and start our third harvester, and at the same time we can queue up a second refinery, and that will put us on our 2 refineries, 4 harvesters that we want to be on for the start of the game, to have a relatively decent economy. And now we just go straight into teching up. So, as I've mentioned before, the airstrike reveals the fog of war, so it's always good to be airstriking the Nod base, just to give yourself more vision of it. So, by placing that comm center down, that's the flamers that I mentioned before. By placing that comm center down, you can see sort of the fortification that Nod has on the other side of the bridge. We're basically going to like-for-like mirror them and fortify our side of the bridge in a very similar way. And what that will do is basically make sure that we are very difficult for the tanks to attack. Of course, obelisks are obelisks and are fantastic buildings, and in a base defense war, the obelisk will always beat the AGT. Construction complete. Building. So what we have to do now is make sure that we're sat sort of skirting on the edge of the obelisk of light's range. Construction complete. Now, we know full well that what the obelisk's range is because we just tested it.
Construction complete. Building.
That little bit of sandbag is just to extend our build radius. Build radius in Command & Conquer 95 is not fantastic. It is purely structures can go adjacent to structures. They can go at the diagonal, but otherwise it remains the same. Structures go to adjacent structures.
Select target.
They did rebuild the power plant we destroyed earlier, but as I said before, the main purpose of that airstrike was in fact to reveal it to us. We've got Flamer being a pest, and I'm struggling to control my commando, as you can imagine. But with this many AGTs on the front line, our base is more or less impenetrable. But we have created another issue, and that is we are over-harvesting and we are now pushing in on the territory of the Brotherhood of Nod's outpost. So that's our next objective. Once we've got a fortified front line that we know we're not going to get whittled down by surprise flame tanks and light tank attacks, as is the case here, we can produce our own medium tank army and start to attack the Brotherhood of Nod's outpost. And that's going to open up another Tiberium field for us, as well as remove this constant flame trooper harass. Between a commando and just a few medium tanks, you'll find that that is absolutely easy to do.
Building. Yes, sir. You got it. Unit lost.
And I'm going to train a couple of engineers just to give me access to some of the structures that are in this base.
Silos needed.
Now, I am going to build a couple of silos because of how strong our economy is going to be. I want to make sure that I can build a little bit of a bank if I'm being lazy about spending the money. Now, of course, proficiency in RTS is about using the resources that you have, ensuring that you gain a lot of resources, in this instance something like Tiberium being our resource because it produces our money. So you want to gain a lot of resources, you want to gain a lot of Tiberium, but gaining a lot of Tiberium does nothing for you unless you're spending it. And that's probably the bit of RTSs that most players forget. It's the same in any game that uses resources, including things like your wood, your gold, your food in titles such as Age of Empires, or in Red Alert, Spice, and of course Doom 2000, you name it, minerals and Vespene gas, it doesn't matter what the resource is. Understanding how to effectively gather the resource is only step 1. Step 2 is then making sure that you're spending that resource, which I'm doing a terrible job of. Because if you are spending the resource, then you are actually using it effectively. Now, it's okay to build a bank from the perspective of a match against the AI, because the AI is very rarely going to kill you. It whittles you down slowly over a long period of time, and you only really die through ignoring the movements of the AI. So in this circumstance, we're very unlikely to die with this bank. But if you ever find yourself playing multiplayer, remember, if you've got money and you can't spend it quick enough, that's time to increase your production. Vice versa, if you're producing faster than you can spend the money, that's time to increase your economy. And that's kind of the juggling act of RTSs that have formed the foundation of every competitive RTS game we've ever seen. It goes between players balancing economy and production, and those who do it effectively often come out on top. But anyway, I haven't really talked about this mission. The Brotherhood of Nod has a huge, expansive base, but it has a couple of critical flaws in it. One, it has no safe Tiberium anymore. By now it will have mined out, and the harvesters have to expose themselves. Secondly, and you can see my airstrike revealed it, their construction yard, and that is their only construction yard, is in a very exposed position. The downside is, of course, we no longer have any safe Tiberium, and we keep getting attacked by dumb harvesters who really like going in to check out what the Obelisk of Light is doing. If you couldn't figure it out for yourself, obelisks of light beat harvesters in a 1v1 battle.
Construction complete.
Shocker it may be, but that is true. So I'm having a moment of indecision
Cancelled.
before settling on more guard towers. I'm waiting for the airstrike so I can take out the construction yard. Taking out the construction yard then means I can take out the power. Taking out the power means the Nod base is completely exposed.
Construction complete.
So in this situation, as well as building our AGTs, we could be training tanks.
Ready. Select.
We've got a decent enough bank, but I'm being cautious because I've not got the economy that I would like to have, and the reason I don't is because of those obelisks and the patrolling Brotherhood of Nod units.
Complete.
As you can see, I've got harvesters and Humvees and all sorts trying to do the dumbest thing possible. So, what we want to do is power down the Brotherhood so we can push in with what remains of our forces. And in fact, we do even want to train some forces. Once again, I lose control of a harvester and I lose yet another harvester to pathing. If you're bad at paying attention to what your harvesters are doing, like I am, I would recommend doing a complete wall off of that bridge. That way your harvesters will not be able to get over it, no matter how hard they try. That's a particularly wise response to being bad at controlling. My own arrogance, I thought I could control my harvesters well enough to keep them harvesting, so that my economy kept building. But I did not do that. So, we're just using the fact that GDI tanks are the best to whittle down some of the Nod troops, so that they have to produce more.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Taking out that extra exposed power plant is just one less power plant providing Nod with its power supply, and we'll be mindful of that going forward. Now you can see that Nod are harvesting something. They have one safe Tiberium field. I know I said they didn't have any, but they mine it out quite quickly, so it's not a huge bonus. And now slowly we can whittle down GDI's power supply. GDI's? Did I say GDI's? I did say GDI's. The Brotherhood of Nod's power supply. I'm not trying to turncoat to the Brotherhood of Nod, though I am super excited to show you their special ops missions because, oh, some of them are fun.
Base is under attack.
So here I am just testing the power of the obelisk, and I find out they are in fact offline. It's good for us because it means we can get to mining again. We don't have to worry about a couple of harvesters dying to an obelisk of light that's protecting the bridge. But otherwise, we're playing quite an extensive waiting game, and that waiting game is purely more airstrikes means more power shortages, which means an easier time to attack. That's combined with the fact that we do need to produce some units to actually attack into the Brotherhood of Nod, as we don't have that larger supply yet. We've been relying almost predominantly on Static D, which is Static Defense, AGT and GT, Advanced Guard Tower and Guard Tower. And this was the next thing I was hoping to bait out, was in fact the Hinds, or the Apaches. I think they're Apaches in this. In Red Alert, the Apache is the helicopter that Allied get, and it fires rockets. In Red Alert, the Soviets get the Hind, which makes that noise and is anti-infantry, so I always call them Hinds. I'm not entirely sure what they're called for the Brotherhood of Nod in this game, but I hear that anti-infantry style of shooting, and I immediately assume it's a Hind. So I destroyed one of the obelisks, but of course that put the power back online. But we get a lucky 2 power plants. which means we can take out this obelisk too. The more obelisks that we take out, the more exposed the Brotherhood become, and we can start to take out things like these SAM sites as well. You may have noticed I haven't even bothered touching Orcas, and that's, as you can see, the sheer amount of SAM sites they have on the front line, as well as guarding all their precious materials. Orcas are probably going to be the least cost-effective strategy you can manage.
Building.
Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Construction complete. Our base is under attack. Building.
So we can take this moment to just to repair everything up. We're producing mammoth tanks, and we're actually running out of money because we're producing our advanced comm center at the same time to unlock the ion cannon. Not that we particularly need the ion cannon at this point. When you start to mass up mammoth tanks like this, the level becomes slightly free, especially when you think you've still got the airstrike augmenting. As I said, compared to the PSX levels, the N64 levels really are not very hard. I think the thing that would have made these levels the hardest is trying to control them with an N64 controller.
Yes, sir.
The RTS is never controlled particularly well on a console, but I can only imagine what playing this was like on the N64. The N64 was the only version of Command & Conquer that I didn't actually own. I owned the PSX and the PC versions, but not the N64 versions. I get marginally distracted here and let an artillery fire off a few salvos.
Select target.
Probably way more salvos than he deserved to fire off, that's for sure. And Nod's still producing random junk and sending it at us. At this point we can call their army junk, because we're at 5 mammoth tanks and growing.
Moving out. Moving out.
I am trying to scout for any further obeliskiness, because I don't remember the level layout too well. I couldn't remember if the bridge obelisks were their only ones or if they had further defences in their base, and I think they have gun turrets. There's one. And there's the obelisk.
Waiting orders. Moving out. Moving out. Moving.
So, of course, 5 mammoth tanks is a colossal force for a few Nod-based defences, and we can start to push in with the mammoth tanks. And really, this is going to be the end of the level, and all you have to do is watch as we destroy one key critical structure. All you actually have to do to win this level is destroy that, and you can probably even airstrike it right at the start. But that's the level. Bye for now. Well everyone, that was N64 Mission 1. Pretty straightforward. The N64 missions really were quite simple compared to the PSX ones, which I remember with a little bit of PTSD for a couple of them in particular. They're really straightforward, and you can play these as standard as possible. Slightly unusual opening, but otherwise, really easy level. Anyway, leave a comment, feel free to join us in the channel Discord, subscribe, and I'll see you in future videos. Bye for now.